But we did have some breaking news this morning that Kemba Walker, Tom Thibodeau said, is out of the Knicks rotation. What do you make of that?
I think that it's interesting. This is a testament to New York basketball and how a rotation change makes breaking news, but rightfully so. And it's really fascinating because, as you mentioned, Coach Thibodeau, that's a defensive-minded coach, and I think this move was all about the defense. If you look at Kemba, I mean, there are a lot of similarities with Alec Burks, statistically. But if you look at his impact defensively, it is quite a liability. The Knicks have been outscored by 13 points per 100 possessions, while Kemba Walker is on the floor. You can see the difference right there, and it's pretty stark. And when I mentioned Alec Burks, I mean, you look at both of them in comparison, 10.5 Burks to 11 Kemba's points per game, 45% from three Burks to Kemba's 41% per three. They shoot about 5 a game, both about 30 years old, 30, 31. The difference here is 6 foot versus 6'6" in an NBA where switching defenses is mandated. So that defensive liability per se, albeit, might seem small in a regular season, but those, losses stack up.
I want to try again here, Chiney, if you can just hang on for 1 second with Adrian Wojnarowski, our senior NBA insider. I want to stay in New York, Woj, going to Brooklyn. Steve Nash said that Joe Harris is getting ankle surgery. What's the timetable for his return?
Malika, Mark Bartelstein with Priority Sports, Joe Harris's agent, tells me a 4 to 8 week timeline for Joe Harris, but there's optimism that his return will be on the shorter end of that timeline. But the Nets, certainly they miss Joe Harris, and they're going to miss him for an extended period now. And they're going to have to continue to rely on this bench in Brooklyn to carry them, not only without Joe Harris, but of course without Kyrie Irving, 2 players that they counted on as starters this season.
Joe Harris has been so key for the Brooklyn Nets. Thanks so much, Woj. Don't go too far because we're going to have so much more news coming up later in the show. But, Chiney, I do want to get your reaction to this. How do you see this impacting Brooklyn? Like Woj mentioned, down Kyrie and now down Joe Harris for a longer period of time.
I feel like New York always wants to enter the scene, right? Because we're back finally after Thanksgiving, having a nice little vacation. They said, home a beer, all right? And so when you think about, overall with Joe Harris switching from the Knicks now to the Nets, this is a big story. Kemba might be a small story per se because it's a rotation change. This is someone that's going to be out for 4 to 8 weeks. And let's talk about his impact. I know people might see 11 points and oh, how much does he help? Spacing the floor is important. Without Kyrie Irving helping, James Harden get going is important, especially with a 46% three-point shooter. And before he was out, early in November, he was shooting around 60% from three.
Yep.
This is the team that is leading the East right now, despite all of the hullabaloo that's been going on.
Right.
So Kevin Durant, he wakes up and what do we say? He gets buckets. But Joe Harris, he's that old, faithful, reliable type of player that you need to really stretch the floor. So this is a very big deal for a team that right now is, pacing the East.
And still looking to find their identity in that. And Blake Griffin, he spoke to the media this morning for the first time since he was taken out of the rotation. He said he's been talking to DeAndre Jordan, trying to just sort of take that mentality. But this is something where now Steve Nash, let's see where he goes into his bench.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.